Hello, good morning viewers. How are you today? I am SHERLY Putri Damayanti. In the early day of the pandemic, it is extremely rare to hear of people taking COVID twice. That's not the case anymore, especially since the Omicron variant emerged in the late November 2021. Why are more people catching COVID again? Part of it is Omicron itself, a variant that's better at snacking, part defense, built on out infection. Part of it is a number game, so many of you have already been infected at some point. That a rising proportion of new infections are a second bout. But getting COVID twice in short space of time is still pretty unlikely, even with the last version of Omicron, which is widespread in the UK. And for most people, a second infection is less likely to make them very ill. How likely are you to catch COVID twice? Eventually, pretty likely, immunity fades and coronavirus evolve. Most people can expect to catch the other coronavirus such as those which cause common cold symptoms many times in their life. But early in the pandemic, that did not seem to be the case with COVID. Fewer than 1% of all cases recorded in the UK before November 2021 were labeled as reinfection. But the Omicron took over. This looked very different to the version of corona that we saw before. Each different gives a better chance of snacking past the body early defense, which were based on exposure to previous COVID infection. And so, the rates of reinfection have been about 10 times higher this year compared with rates seen early in the pandemic. How is the new version of Omicron different? This new spring Omicron, known as BI2, have driven UK infection back to record level. The Office for National Statistics said that about 1 in 60 people across the UK and COVID in the weeks ending 19 March. It is similar to, but even more infection than the version that came before Christmas Omicron BI1. If you had COVID in the past few months, it's likely to have been a version of Omicron, which in turn should give you good protection against a second bout of it. The data we have so far suggests that a second Omicron infection is rare but can occur. More rare infections have been seen among younger people and those who haven't been vaccinated. Laboratory studies suggest that a combination of Omicron infection and vaccinated could leave your body even better prepared to fight off a new infection than one infection alone. About 5 million people have had a COVID booster dose since the start of the year, with another 2 million getting their second dose. And tens of millions of youths have protection from a recent infection. About 1 in 3 of you caught COVID during the first Omicron wave. But even if there only a small chance of any one person getting Omicron a second time, you are quite likely to hear about it happening. It's small chance multiplied by the tens of millions of people who was recent had COVID. Will it make her miss cycle? So far, it's like a case of BI2 is no more likely to put you in hospital than a case of BI1 was. And even if you do test positive again, that is not the same as being sick with COVID-19. According to immunologist Prof. Eleanor Riley, it means there is virus in your nose and throat. The protection provided is vaccinated of having had a previous infection are more useful at preventing the virus from getting into your body and doing such damage. Then it is a keeping the virus out of your eyes and throat. Preferably, think if you test positive again but feel well, your main concern should be whether you might pass it on to someone who is particularly vulnerable. An infection can still land some people in hospital, particularly those with weakened immune system or underlying health condition. But despite the record one of COVID infection, the court wave is fighting even where people in hospital than we saw in January until precisely because so many of you now have a combination of protection from vaccination and previous infection. During January's peak, about 55% of people in COVID being in England hospital were being treated mainly for their COVID. The most recent figure for 22 March say that figure is down to about 45%, and the total number of people in house with COVID are less than half of what we saw in January 2021. The government hopes the sparing booster vaccine rollout will help to top up immunity for the most vulnerable and make it ever harder for Omicron to cause serious illness, whether it strikes once or twice. Thank you.